Hey friends, welcome to the School of Hard Knocks with Darcie, a place where we become unstuck from trauma and grounded in our healing. I'm your host, Darcie, and I'm a proud multi-graduate of the School of Hard Knocks. Life has a way of teaching us lessons we never asked for, but here we take those lessons and turn them into healing, strength, and self-leadership. I'm so glad you're here. Let's dive in. Just a quick reminder. This podcast shares personal stories and lived experiences. It's not therapy. It's not counseling or legal advice. If you need professional help, please reach out to a licensed provider. Welcome, School of Hard Knocks. Class is in session. I am really excited about the interview that I'm doing today. This is my pastor. You know, God is so perfect in all of his timing, right? Pastor Yauo and I had talked about him being on my podcast probably 3 months ago already.
Yeah, I told her, I'm like, I want to be a part of this. I've never done it before.
Yeah, and we've talked about it, and it just didn't align. I got sick. I was in school. Well, now here we are sitting together talking at church in front of the cross during Holy Week. And Pastor Yauo, his episode is going to release on Good Friday, because doesn't that just make sense to have that happen?
That's so awesome. God's timing is perfect.
All the time. Well, let me introduce you. So Pastor Yauo was born in 1980 in the, am I going to say this right? Ban Vinai refugee camp?
Ban Vinai
refugee camp in Thailand, and moved to the United States with his family in 1987, growing up in central Wisconsin. He graduated from Wausau West High School in 2000, married his wife Mela the same year, attended UW Stevens Point, and after the events of 9/11, enlisted in the Wisconsin Army National Guard, serving a tour in Iraq from 2004 to 2005, where a life-changing experience deepened his faith. After returning home, he became an educator, earned master's degrees in educational leadership and Christian studies, founded the Cross Church in 2016, and a Christian drug treatment program in 2019, and is now a father of 6 who enjoys outdoor activities with his family. Like, when I tell you, Pastor Yauo is about to receive an award on Saturday, and he's so humbled by that, but this man is a very, very deserving man of things like that, and the humbleness that you show just shows how good of a man that you are. So I am so excited to sit here and talk with you about all of the things. I think Pastor Yauo is incredible. I was introduced to him because of the drug treatment program that he does offer, because he helped my brother that you all have met.
Yeah.
And it is a big reason why Angus is working and is coming to the church and has found his faith and deepened it. So welcome to the School of Hard Knocks.
Yeah, it's a blessing to be here. I'm really looking forward to this, Darcie.
I'm so glad. Well, tell me a little bit about your past and how you came to the States.
Okay. So I am Hmong, and because I am Hmong, then originally we're not from here. Historically, the Hmong people have never had their own country. Like, if you go and pick up the globe, you are not going to find Hmong land anywhere in there.
Yes.
There is no such thing. The reason why is because the Hmong people, we have always been a minority group that have always lived with a larger group. And when you're the minority, you're always persecuted.
Yeah.
So historically, the Hmong people, we believe that our genealogy goes all the way back to possibly Mongolia. But eventually we left Mongolia, and then we went to China. When we were living in China, the Chinese did not like the Hmong people because, again, when you're the ethnic minority group, it's so easy for the majority to just persecute you.
Yeah.
And so there were constant battles between the Hmong people and the Chinese. It got to be so bad that during the 1800s, the Hmong people, we decided that we're not going to stay in China anymore. We're going to go south. And so when we went south, we went into Southeast Asia, predominantly in the country of Laos. Well, when the Hmong people went into the country of Laos, it wasn't like this was new virgin land. There were already people living in Laos. These were the Laotian people. And so as the Hmong people came into Laos, the Laotian people are like, what are you doing here? Like, we don't want you in our country too. But if you have to be here, go up to the mountains. Nobody's living up in the mountains. So just go and make your life up in the mountains. So the Hmong people, we became known as the hillbillies of Southeast Asia. And so we were the mountain people. So the Hmong people were living kind of our quiet life in Southeast Asia, in the country of Laos. Everything was fine until right around the 1950s when war really broke out. And so during the 1960s, this was during the Vietnam War. And so U.S. forces came into Southeast Asia, and the American government did not like the expansion of communism at that time. So you have North Vietnam, that's communist, and then you have South Vietnam, that's more democratic. Well, Ho Chi Minh, the leader of North Vietnam, he wanted to take over all of Vietnam. And so then he went through the country of Laos to try to get into South Vietnam, where, well, the Hmong people were already living in the country of Laos. During the Vietnam War, there was a neutrality agreement that was signed that the Vietnam War was only supposed to stay within Vietnam. But the enemy, they still went through the country of Laos. And the United States CIA, they knew that. So American forces could not be in Laos. And so they were very smart too. The CIA came into Laos. They recruited the Hmong people to become allies with the Americans. So the Hmong people ended up fighting on behalf of the Americans. And the deal was, if this war went really bad, the United States government was supposed to rescue the Hmong people and take us to America, because I mean, U.S. forces can just go back to America, but if you leave the Hmong people, we're going to get slaughtered. And so, like, eventually that's what happened. In 1973, the war went really bad. U.S. forces left, and when they left the Hmong people behind. So we were not rescued, and so the communists came into our villages and started to shoot up and kill the Hmong people just because we had been allies with the Americans during the Vietnam War. So then, eventually, all that came to a head for my family. And so in 1979, 1980, my parents decided that they were no longer going to be safe staying in their village in Laos. So my parents, they took my 3 older siblings to the jungles, but you know, in the jungles, there's like no food, there's no medicine, there's no shelter. So then because of disease, starvation, and malnutrition, all 3 of my older siblings ended up passing away in the jungles of Laos. So my parents buried them in the jungle. My mom was actually pregnant with me when she was running through the jungles of Laos. It is estimated that over 100,000 Hmong people got slaughtered in the jungles of Laos. And so if my mom would have been a statistic, we would not be here today. So by the grace of God, my parents were able to then make it into the next safe country over, which was in Thailand. And so on December 12 of 1980, that's when I was born in the Ban Vinai refugee camp. And it was just a really horrible place to live, just complete poverty, not enough food, shelter, clothing, you name it. We were fed through the United Nations. So the United Nations came in and gave food for the Hmong people. During this time period, the Ban Vinai refugee camp was the world's largest refugee camp in the entire world. And that's where I ended up growing up. So everything changed in 1987 when I was 7 years old. My family was finally granted political asylum to come to America. We had relatives already living here in central Wisconsin. So then during the fall of 1987, that's when our family left the refugee camp and we came here to America.
Wow. Goodness, right?
Yeah.
I mean, just talk about how God has his hand in every single detail
Mm-hmm.
with that. I mean, because like you said, had your parents had to succumb to that, we would not be sitting here right
Correct.
now. And boy, Central Wisconsin would not be the same, I'll tell you right now. Pastor Yauo was not sitting here with us because
Yeah.
we are just all so thankful for you and everything that you've done for the community. So, well, now you're here. Now you're in Central Wisconsin and you're about 7 years old, right? And you're going to school and you're trying to get used to this culture.
Yeah, it was very traumatic for a little 7-year-old Hmong boy. I mean, up to this point, for the last 7 years of my life, like we were actually fenced in the refugee camp, so nobody could leave. So the only people that my eyes saw for 7 years were Hmong people.
Yeah.
And then overnight, my parents take me into this foreign country that I had never been to. For me to be able to see like very white-skinned people, blonde hair, blue eyes, speaking a whole different language, that was very scary and traumatizing for a 7-year-old to go through that experience, because like I've never seen these type of people before, and when they speak to me, I can't understand them, and then when I speak to them, they can't understand me as well too. So we had relatives living in Merrill, so we lived in Merrill for about a year, and I went to school in Merrill, and that was just such a difficult ordeal. I mean, up to this point, I had never heard or spoke a single word of English whatsoever. And for me to then go to school, and I had never gone to school too.
Right.
Yeah. So to be in a new country, to then be kind of forced to go to school, it was such a difficult ordeal, just trying to communicate and understand this foreign country that my parents had taken me to. It was really difficult. I was bullied because I couldn't speak English. And even if I was bullied, I couldn't even communicate to the teachers that I was being bullied.
Yeah.
And in Merrill, I was only one of among 3 kids.
I was going to ask you if there were any other.
Yeah, so I had two of my girl cousins in that entire school, and that was it.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was a very difficult ordeal to go through. We lived about a mile away from the school. My parents came to this country with not a single penny to their name. So we didn't have a vehicle. And so I remember for the longest time, like in order for me to go to school, I would just have to walk to school, even sometimes through the nasty snow blizzards of Wisconsin. Me being this little 7-year-old, walking to school and coming back through these snowstorms, and it was just so miserable, so difficult. A year later, my relatives were like, hey, we want to go to North Carolina. My parents were like, that's too big of an adjustment for us. So then we ended up leaving Merrill, and then we came to Wausau, where there was a larger Hmong population. So then it was kind of nice, actually, going to school. I went to Lincoln Elementary School, and there was a larger Hmong population. So then school was a lot more comfortable for me.
Yeah.
Being able to like speak to like your Hmong friends, and then they can help you to be able to understand English. But it was still like very difficult because we lived in poverty. My father came to America, and he had no education whatsoever. So my father worked at Kobe & Kobe, which is a factory, and he made $25,000 a year. And by now, I'm the oldest of 9 kids. So
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
So many similar things.
I know.
So my father, all that he could afford was a 2-bedroom upstairs duplex. So my mom and dad had 1 bedroom, and all 9 of us kids, we were packed into the other bedroom. And to make matters worse, it was cockroach infested. So this was my upbringing here in Wausau. Like, don't get me wrong, I was really thankful to be living here in America, but by American standards, we just struggled to just get by because we lived in poverty. So, I would go to school and I would make friends with Caucasian students, but eventually I realized that our lives are so different. Even though we went to the same school, we went to the same classroom, because of poverty, outside of school, my life was completely different than some of my friends that were Caucasian, because they got ginormous Christmas presents. I barely got any Christmas presents. They got to go on vacations during spring break, summer break. That was not existent in my world. Some of them got to go to their cabin up north in Minocqua, and it's just like,
you have a second house?
Yeah, you have two homes.
Oh, wow.
We don't even own a home. We just we just rent a duplex. And so I realized just the difficulties of being among refugee in America, and how challenged we were in so many different areas of our life. So my father constantly reminded us that our ticket out of poverty was our education. And so growing up, when I was in elementary school, I was put in ESL classes, English as a second language class, because again, I couldn't speak English well. And by the way, I got held back in first grade. So I did first grade 2 years in a row because I couldn't speak English. Well, I busted my butt off and I worked really hard in school, and I was just really persistent that I'm going to do good. Interesting enough, by the time I get to 6th grade at John Muir Middle School, they were putting me into advanced placement English classes.
Wow.
So that just goes to show you how hard I really worked, especially when it came to the English language. I really enjoyed going to school, because when I went to school, that reminded me that I was no longer in poverty.
Yeah.
Going back home reminded me of poverty. So as much as I could, I really liked to stay after school and participate in all the extracurriculars, especially the sports. So God has just given me this gift of just being very athletic. So I was a great runner, a great basketball player, but one of the sports that's really just changed my life was cross-country running. And so in middle school, cross-country running, you run 2 miles. And the thing that cross-country teaches you is to never give up.
Yeah.
It teaches you perseverance and grit. Because with cross-country running, when that gun goes off, you run.
Yeah.
And you do not stop. You do not give up. Regardless of how painful and how much you want to quit, you do not give up until you finish the race 2 miles later. And through that experience, it's really just changed me to be who I am today, where, so often in life, life gets challenging, life gets difficult, and we just want to quit. We just want to throw in the towel. We want to give up. But from a young age, I had already instilled in me that no matter how difficult life is going to be, I'm going to put one foot in the other, in front of the other, and I'm not going to give up.
Yeah.
So that was middle school. And then by the time I got to high school, because my parents were really poor, I had financial needs that my parents couldn't really help me with. So as much as I loved staying after school to do all the sports, eventually I came to the realization that I can't do after school sports anymore, and I needed to get a job after school so that I can start to save my own money so that I can get the things that I want, because I just knew my parents would never be able to just give me money to afford those things. So then my real first job, actually when I was 12, I was a paper boy.
Me too.
Yeah. So that was back in the days when they actually read newspapers.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But I was a newspaper boy, and then eventually I was a dishwasher at Bill's Fine Food.
My gosh, you know what's so interesting is Pastor Yauo and I have never had the opportunity to sit down and actually talk about our past. And it's so interesting to me how similar that it is. I mean, even growing up in poverty, and I can completely understand that we were the welfare family. You know, we had the Salvation Army that would bring the Christmas gifts because my parents couldn't afford that. We had food stamps. We had to share clothes between me and some of my siblings, school supplies, shoes. Definitely could not do anything extracurricular related because we could barely even, you know, pay to do anything. Having a pet at home that we couldn't even hardly provide for ourselves. How could we have even have had like a dog or something, you know? But that's what led me to I was delivering papers when I was 12 and 13 years old. And I was so good at it that I would actually, during Christmas time, they would give you like little tips. Or like little cookie things that some of the elderly people would make because I was just always this very friendly kid, even though I wasn't raised around that. But my first job was actually at the Ponderosa. And I was running the buffet. That's what I did there. So, I mean, you just knew, like, I knew I didn't want to not have money.
Correct.
I didn't need to have a whole bunch of it, but I wanted to be able to be okay. So I understand that.
Yeah, so I was a dishwasher, and then eventually I went over to Annie's American Cafe.
I loved that place.
And so I started off as a dishwasher, and eventually they promoted me to become a cook in the kitchen. So I think I started at Annie's like at $4.75 an hour, and then that was like my freshman year of high school. So I worked throughout high school at Annie's American Cafe. And in those 4 years, by the end, I was actually one of the managers at Annie's American Cafe, making $8.50 an hour.
Oh, isn't that something?
But yeah, so I mean, like, because of my difficult upbringing, that has really just taught me to be a hard worker. And you know, as difficult as that was, like, I do appreciate just that experience because it's made me to be a stronger individual. But eventually in 2000, I graduated from Wausau West High School, and I met my wife kind of during that same time, and we dated for a long time. We dated for a month and a half, and we got married.
Whoa.
So I just figured, hey, you know, like, you're the person that I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. I could continue to splurge all this money dating you, taking you out, but I'm going to save a lot of money if I just marry you off, and we can just be a couple. So graduated from high school, got married that summer, and then in fall of 2000, I was accepted to go to college already at UW Stevens Point. So my wife and I, we both moved down to Stevens Point, and we started college together.
I love that. It's so exciting too because the beginning part of our church, Pastor Yauo always brings the littles up, and the way that you could tell that you were an exceptional teacher is when you do that. I mean, you can tell your passion for kids. You can tell your passion for learning. You know, like your excitement when they all raise their hands and they know the question, you know. You can see how you were so passionate about that position that you had held for how long were you a teacher?
Yeah, so I was a teacher for 8 years in the classroom, and then so that was with my bachelor's degree, and eventually I got my master's degree in educational leadership, and when I got that degree, that opened up more opportunities for me to do different areas of education. So for 4 to 5 summers, I was a summer school principal at Lincoln Elementary School, my old elementary school, so it was kind of cool going back there, and now I was the boss of my old teachers. So that was kind of interesting. And then I was also an adjunct professor down at UW Stevens Point for 4 years as well too.
That is incredible. I mean, how, you know, that full circle moment, right? Like going back to the original school where it was so difficult and so complicated at the beginning to going back as the summer school principal. I mean, what a full circle moment to see the hard work, effort, and tenacity that went into making that happen.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I just find that to just, it is a full circle. I mean, that's where I had my educational beginning, and to be successful, and then to come back and to try to pay that forward and inspire these young students to be able to say, like, hey, you know, through my challenges of going to school here, I didn't give up, and I just, if I can do this, you guys can do it.
So what led you from the school system into being a pastor?
Well, so when I was in college in 2001, I was a sophomore in college, and 9/11 happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I was at school, and to be able to just kind of experience that on that day, I don't know, how old were you back in 2001?
I was just turning 21 because
Okay.
I'm 46, you're 45.
Okay, yeah.
So, and I remember the day. I mean,
Do
I'm
you?
sure everybody remembers the day Eric and I were at home. We were in the kitchen. I walked into the living room and I was like, "What movie are you watching?"
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't watch violent stuff like that. I was like, "What are you watching?" And then I looked and I realized that it was live, and my brain couldn't even compute that it was even happening at first.
Yeah.
It was just so, oh my gosh, this is actually real life. This is not a movie.
Correct. So I think for a lot of us that were, alive and experienced that day, it was very traumatizing to see our nation under attack, especially by a foreign enemy.
Yeah.
So I really thought a lot about that day, and it's just like, how dare these Middle Eastern terrorists come to destroy America? They think that Americans are bad, when, most Americans are good, kind, loving people, and so we need to protect our country. In 2001, I'm not an American citizen. I came over here as a refugee, and because I'm a refugee, I'm considered a permanent resident, but I had not gotten my U.S. citizenship yet, so I was not a full-fledged American citizen. Earlier, I had tried to start the paperwork, but the government ended up losing my paperwork, so I was still not an American citizen in 2001. But I thought a lot about that day, and it's just like, we need people that are going to stand up to protect our country. And even though I'm just one person, I still believe in the power of one to still make a difference. So in 2002, against the wishes of everybody, so I went and talked to a lot of my Hmong family members and my Hmong friends, and they're like, Yao, you don't want to join the army. Like, you might get sent into a war, and you might die, and this country doesn't even allow you to vote. Like, you're not an American citizen. Well, in my heart, I felt like I'm an American, and so the right American thing to do is to sign up to defend my country. And so in 2002, I signed up with the Wisconsin Army National Guard, and then in 2003, I went and got trained down in Fort Benning, Georgia, as a combat infantry soldier. And so that was a very physically and mentally and physically enduring time for me. I'm not the biggest guy, but thankfully, I had already learned at a young age, you don't give up, you don't give up, you don't quit. So as difficult as boot camp was, 3.5 months later, I did graduate from boot camp. And because I was a part of the Wisconsin Army National Guard, I was thinking, okay, like, I get to come back to Stevens Point, and now the GI Bill is going to pay for all my college tuition. And 1 week in a month, I'm just going to go and play Rambo, and life is good. Well, a few months later, Uncle Sam had different plans. The war in Iraq, Operation Iraqi Freedom, it was not going well. And the United States government needed more soldiers overseas. So of the 50 states, it's crazy, but the Wisconsin National Guard is one of the very first National Guard states to be activated for Operation Iraqi Freedom.
Wow.
The Wisconsin Army National Guard had not been activated for wartime deployment since World War II.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. And
Wow.
in my luck, within a few months of graduating from boot camp, they're like, we're sending you Wisconsin boys over to this war. And it's just like, wait a minute. Like,
I have some questions about that.
yeah, like, I thought I was supposed to just help out with some, like, flooding and some tornadoes in Wisconsin. But no, Uncle Sam had different plans. So then we went down to Mississippi for 6 months, and we trained to go into the war. And then on Thanksgiving's Day of 2004, my boots touched Kuwait in the Middle East. Kuwait was a safer country that was next to Iraq. And we got all of our equipment and weapons ready. And then on my birthday, on December 12th of 2004, we were then put in the back of these army trucks. And we were then trucked into the city of Samarra, Iraq, which was about 2 to 3 hours north of Baghdad. in what is called the deadly Sunni Triangle. Samarra was so dangerous because the insurgents, they wanted to kill us American soldiers, and one of their best methods of killing U.S. soldiers was with IEDs, improvised explosive devices. So then they wouldn't hide these bombs during the daytime because we can see them. So a lot of times they would just be hiding these bombs at night. So that meant that the nighttime was very dangerous. And so because it was so dangerous in Samarra, we actually put out a curfew. So when it gets dark, the indigenous population, the Iraqis, they cannot leave their house. And if they leave, our rules of engagement is we have the right to eliminate you because we think that you're up to no good. You're just trying to kill Americans. So that meant that every night, American soldiers, we had to go and patrol the entire city to make sure that the streets were safe. So then a few weeks later, on December 26th of 2004, we were in a routine foot patrol to enforce the curfew and to look for insurgents. My buddy, Staff Sergeant Toddleson, was number 1. There was another sergeant that was number 2, and I was number 3 from the front. And an hour and a half into our night mission, we were walking down this dark road, and we didn't know it, but they had already planted an IED in the middle of the road, and we got close enough to it. They used a remote control. They detonated that IED, and my good friend Staff Sergeant Toddleson unfortunately happened to be right next to that IED, and he became the 32nd soldier from Wisconsin to die in Iraq. And he was just a few yards in front of me when that happened. So I was 24 years old at that time, and you know, every 24-year-old, every young person thinks they're going to live forever, and I thought I was going to live forever too. But you know, when you come so close to death by just a few seconds or just a few yards, like, it really scared me. Like, I didn't want to die. In my eyes, I had my entire life ahead of me, but if my buddy just died in front of me, I have a high likelihood of also like getting killed here too. And we weren't even in the war for 1 month, and we already have 1 casualty. My deployment was 12 months.
Oh boy.
We have 11 more months to fight in this war. Like, we didn't even get over 1 month, and we already got 1 dead guy. I'm like, I'm trying to do the math, and this math is not working out. So it's like, there is no way we're gonna make it through the next 11 months and not lose another soldier. Like, unfortunately, somebody's gonna have to be dead next, and I don't want to die. I'm like, I have my wife waiting for me back here in Wisconsin. I have my whole life ahead of me. And people say there are no atheists in the foxhole. And when you're in a really bad like situation like where I am at in a war, there is nothing that I can do to protect myself. There is nothing that I can do to save myself. And that's when my faith really became real. And I really asked myself, like, you know, if that bomb would have just waited like 3 more seconds, and if that killed me, where would I go? Would I go to heaven or would I go to hell? And I couldn't answer that question. Now, don't get me wrong, I went to church. But going to church does not save you.
That's right.
It is your personal belief in your heart that you have come to accept and believe that Jesus Christ is your Lord and Savior. And up to that point, I had just gone to church, but I had never really surrendered my life completely to the Lord. And so it was during that time where I just gave my life completely to the Lord. And I just said, God, like, I believe in you. I need you to help me. I'm in a really bad situation. If you can get me out of Iraq alive when I come back to Wausau, I'll give you my life. Just don't let me die here. Unfortunately, a few months later, we ended up losing another young soldier because of a bomb. So by the end of 2005, I'd fought in Iraq for 12 months, came back from the war. I was really messed up. I was diagnosed with PTSD. We ended up seeing things that we shouldn't have seen. We ended up doing things that we shouldn't have done. And so that really kind of stuck with me. And that was really difficult for me to transition back to civilian life. But eventually I did graduate from college, and in 2008 I got my teaching degree. So I became a teacher at the DC Everest Middle School, and all of that was fine until 10 years after the war. So it's now 2015. And there's a stirring in my heart, like I'm supposed to do something more. And that was when God reminded me, hey, like, remember, we had made this deal that you were going to do something for me when you come back here to Wisconsin. And so for like the last 10 years, I had just been squandering that time. And so in 2015, I was like, God, what do you want me to do? Like, I want to serve you. Strangely enough, in 2015, a Hmong pastor and a Caucasian pastor on 2 separate occasions, they said, hey, we think you make a good church planter, somebody that just goes and starts up their own church. And so I was like, you can start up your own church? Usually everybody just goes to these pre-established churches. And so they're like, yeah, like we feel like you might be able to like have the potential to be a really good church planter. I'm like, okay, so if I could start any church, what kind of a church would I start? And so I've always loved all people of all backgrounds. And so in January of 2016, my wife and I, we had no money. And so we started the Cross Church in the living room of our house, January of 2016. We started with about 25 people. And so that was the humble beginnings of the Cross Church in the living room of our house, January of 2016.
You know, I think it's so important to point out too when you said, you know, and this is a big thing for me. People who go to church just to say that they go to church to check it off their list.
Yeah.
There is such a difference with going to church for the purpose of actually being in the Lord's house, to serve the Lord, to be with your church family, to worship Him together, to feel that moment, to learn about Him, to integrate Him into your life, versus going and mindlessly being there just to say, well, I went to church today. You know, I mean, that's not really serving the purpose, and it's definitely not serving the Lord. So I'm so happy that you pointed that part of it out, because a lot of us feel like, well, yeah, I know who God is, but do you? Do you like intimately know who God is? I'm really proud of Eric and I.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I mean, we've gone through stuff, as you guys know, but we have picked up a journey of reading the Bible in a year, and we are almost 200 days in of reading our Bible every single day. We have finished our 20th book. The things that we have learned, the way that God has always been a part of our life, but you don't want Him to be a part of it. You want Him to be your life. And there is such a difference when you're serving Him with your life full-time, not just part-time. Making that time for Him every single day. He's so deserving to have that time from you every single day. So I love that you said that, but your story leading all the way up to this, and the way that God had already obviously written your book, right, of life before you were even born, and knew that He was going to lead you to this church plant. And this church plant has been so beneficial for our community. I mean, I think you know that, but I don't think you know, when you're walking with God, like even with Darren, when I had just done his interview, he's like, it's not me, it's God. And it's like, it's so great that how humbling it is to be used as a tool by the Lord.
It is.
I mean, because that's where I'm at in my life right now. You know, to think that God has looked at me in such of a way that He said, I'm going to use her as a tool, as a way to bring people closer to me.
Amen.
It humbles you to know that He loves you that way, but He trusts you that way to work through you. And that's what He's doing with you, with this church plant.
Yeah. So we started the church, and you know, it wasn't easy. I didn't have a Bible college degree. I was not at that time an experienced pastor. We didn't have one of those traditional church buildings. But eventually, a year later, we outgrew the space in our living room. My wife was really happy for that.
Yeah, I bet.
You know, like on Saturdays, we'd try to clean up the entire house with 6 kids. And so that got a little old after a while. So a year later, we outgrew the house, and then we rented a building in the community. And when we were finally in the community, like God really impressed upon me, like our church's Bible verse is Matthew chapter 28, verse 19. Go, therefore, and make disciples. And so the word that really stuck with me is go.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as believers, we are to go into the community and make disciples. But I think Christianity, I think churches, I think Christians have gotten really lazy.
Mm-hmm.
What we've done is we've established the church, and we say, well, we're going to just stay here, and whoever wants Jesus can then come to us. When you read the Bible, Jesus didn't stay in the synagogues for people to just come and hang out with them. Jesus was always going out into his community, looking for those that are hurting, lost, sick, or whatever. So God really impressed me, like, Yauo, go. Go into your community because you're in the community now. So then we started to go under the bridges over by downtown Wausau. And that's where the homeless people were living at. So we started to pray for them. We started to feed them. We started to clothe them. And then I started to go to like the Salvation Army shelter to just give hope and encouragement with those populations over there. And for about 10 years now, I have been going inside the Marathon County Jail to do Bible study with inmates in there. So on Wednesday, I do an hour's Bible study with female inmates. And then on Friday, I do an hour's worth of Bible study for the male inmates. So as I'm doing these kind of community ministries, this is the population that starts coming to the church. Folks that were homeless, folks that were coming out of incarceration. And, you know, I don't have that background. Like, I've never been homeless. I've never been incarcerated. And so, like, this was all new to me, but I just embraced it in my heart because these are people that are lost, that are broken. Like, they really need Jesus. And so I have this opportunity to be able to give them hope and encouragement through the gospel. And as I'm getting to know this homeless population, the incarcerated population, there's kind of one common denominator that's always coming up as far as why they're homeless and why they're incarcerated, and it's because of addiction. And addiction is kind of new to me too. Like, we were too poor to have any addictions.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So so I started to understand addiction a little bit more, and it really dawned on me that, like, folks that are homeless, folks that are coming out of incarceration, addiction is the thing that continues to keep them, unfortunately, enslaved to the sins and the struggles of their life. And then in 2019, our church went over to the YWCA. So then we outgrew the space over there, and then we went to downtown Wausau. And it was when we were in downtown Wausau that I heard this thing called the Joseph Project. And so I learned that the Joseph Project is trying to help kind of the population that I work with to be able to get full-time employment. So eventually I was asked to be a part of the Joseph Project to just teach one class, but eventually they asked me to just take over the entire project, and that's when I ended up becoming the director for the Joseph Project here in Wausau. So here I am working with the homeless, the incarcerated, folks trying to get jobs, and it came to dawn on me that one of the greatest need for this entire population is they really need a stable and safe, sober environment for them to kind of reset, and we don't really have something like that, where the resources are very limited. So therefore, I ended up kind of putting this nonprofit together, and in 2023 we ended up starting this facility that helps men coming out of incarceration and addiction and homelessness, where they can reset, where they can stay there for 12 to 18 months. It's a sober environment that we're able to then help them to just transform their life completely around. So that was kind of my last big project that I was doing, was with that. And so once I got that started, I was then able to kind of just give that over to somebody else, and to do other really passionate projects. And the one passionate project that you and I have been a part of is doing the Adults with Special Needs Ministry.
Yes. Man, Pastor Yauo, I'm telling you, like, your story is just so different than so many other people's stories. You know, you run towards the people that most people run away from.
Correct.
And it's such a beautiful thing because we are all children of God. All of us are children of God. So to think about people who are just being left behind because somebody doesn't have the courage or the desire to bring them closer to recovery, safety, faith. I mean, that has been a game changer for so many people. Like, if for you, it has to be incredible to look out, because we're at church. It has to be incredible to look out here and we're seeing people it's a rainbow in here.
It is.
It's such a beautiful place to be able to worship the Lord together.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I just love our congregation. I mean, God has brought here, we have a lot of different ethnicities in our church.
We do.
We have little babies that are here at church, all the way up to folks that are 70, 80 years old. We have doctors in this church. And we have homeless people in this church. We have people that have been Christians their entire life. And we have people that just accepted Jesus Christ. So it humbles me that the Lord has allowed me to be the shepherd of the cross, to be able to kind of steward this congregation so that we're all going to grow closer to the Lord. And I've been greatly blessed that a while back, your brother Angus, that out of the blue, he came to the Joseph Project. We helped him to get a job. And Angus is kind of a rare breed.
He is.
a lot of graduates from the Joseph Project, they come here and they're like, I got a job, thank you very much, see you later.
Yeah.
Angus was not that. He benefited from the Joseph Project, and he decided that, you know what, like, I'm going to stick around and check out this church some more to see what this church is all about. He is such a completely transformed individual than, I didn't know him before his, I guess, prison days. I've only known him post-incarceration. And I love the guy. And it's hard for me to, even imagine how he used to be like. But even just the transformation that he has made in his life, the dedication that he has made, and his continual battle each and every day to not let evil take over his life. I mean, I'm just so proud of him. And, I'm just humbled to be able to be his pastor. But even through that process, Angus has always said, like, I want my family to be here. And then eventually, you and Eric came here, and you guys continue to come. And, like, I'm just really blessed to have the Boozies in my life.
We're blessed to have you. I mean, Eric and I have followed, our faith has been strong for a long time. Eric and I were actually baptized together probably 8 years ago at DMC church in our area, and our pastors left and went to Canada, and church planted, reopened a church in Canada. And Eric and I have been looking for a different church, and my brother said, you come and check out the Cross. And we have never left. We've been here for about 6 months or better, probably a little bit longer than that, because we did bring my dad once or twice before he passed away. But there's something about you and the way God works through you and your passion and the way that you take every single thing that you could possibly think of to help every single person. There's food on the back table. There's food in the back. There's
clothes.
The clothes. There's the helping of the homeless people. There's the ministering at the jail. We are people that are being baptized coming in April. I mean, certificates for people that have given themselves to the Lord. The special needs church, which is like one of my favorite things to volunteer at.
Yeah.
I love that, the light on their faces and the joy that they have coming here. I mean, you are really allowing yourself to be a tool for the Lord to touch every single person, from very little to very old to everybody in between to disabled to everybody. And this is literally a non-denominational, non-ethnic, every single person is welcome in this church.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, we're definitely a unique church. Yeah. And I think the people that are drawn to this church, we all realize that, like, we don't fit the norm. I'm a little awkward and different. You're a little awkward and different. But that's the reason why we're such a good fit for this congregation. So I'm just really glad that God has brought the misfits together.
Me too. Well, here we are walking in Holy Week. We're about to walk into Easter. Let's leave our church family, our viewers here, with a little message about Easter and how important that Easter is.
Yeah, so I think the world has gone so far away from Jesus, and unfortunately the Easter bunny and the Easter egg, that has taken over Easter, and people have forgotten about the true meaning of Easter, just like in Christmas. I think Christmas has lost its true meaning, and Easter has also been so commercialized, but I think it's still really important for us to remember that the reason why we celebrate Easter is because Jesus loved us so much that despite all of the sins, how horrible we are as human beings, Jesus still had so much love, grace, compassion that even he himself was willing to go and die on the cross so that through his death, through the blood of Jesus Christ, our sins can be forgiven. And he loved us so much that he was willing to do all of that on Good Friday. And that's how good he is, even though we're not good. But because of the power and the victory of Jesus Christ, death could not hold him. And so 3 days later, on Easter Sunday morning, Jesus had victory over death. Jesus rose from the death. And for that reason, Jesus is still alive. So I think what's really important about Easter is we need to really, really fully take control of this notion and this idea that, like, Jesus Christ has victory over death. And we as Christians, we have Jesus in us. And so because we have Jesus in us, there is nothing that life can stop us, because as long as we have Jesus, Jesus will continue to give us victory over all these obstacles. And I think that that's the message that we need to remember about Easter, is that through Jesus, anything is made possible.
Yes, amen. And what a beautiful message in knowing that. You know, it's as simple as accepting the Lord and Savior into your life in order to be able to receive everlasting life. What a beautiful message. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Pastor Yauo.
It is a great honor. I'm so glad that you're willing to allow me to come and be in this podcast, School of Hard Knocks. I feel like that's my life.
Yes.
And so I can definitely relate to that. And, you know, even as a Christian, right? We're not perfect.
Yes.
And so some of our greatest lessons were when we fell down.
Yes.
And through the School of Hard Knocks, that has taught us to be able to be obedient, to trust in the Lord.
Yes.
And so I'm so thankful for our friendship, our relationship here.
Me too.
And thank all the viewers for tuning in and listening to my life story. And God's not done with you. God's not done with us. He's still writing our chapters of our life.
That's right. That's right. Well, like Pastor Yauo says every Sunday, I hope this message goes from your head to your heart to your hands. And go out there and tell people about your struggles, your life, but allow Jesus into your life to be able to help you. We appreciate you guys being here with us today. And like I always say, with God, healing is always possible. We'll see you on the next episode. I'd like to thank you for sharing your time with me today. And I'm so proud of you for stepping into your healing journey. Please share this with every single person that you know. I'm here to make the biggest impact possible, and I can only do that with you by my side. I hope you hit that follow button and you save me to your library so you never miss an episode. We just took another break out of your wall, and remember, with God, healing is always possible. I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.